Jnanakosha, Upanishads.
Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upavachramastamam Jyashtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspadana Shrunvannoti Vispeda Sadhanam. Om Purnamidam Purnamadah Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Krishna Yajurveda Upanishad. The Svwtaashvatara Upanishad is an ancient Sanskrit text embedded in the Yajurveda. It is listed as number 14 in the Muktika canon of 108 Upanishads. The Upanishad contains 113 mantras or verses in 6 chapters. The Upanishad is one of the 33 Upanishads from Taittiriya and associated with the Svwtaashvatara tradition within Karka Sakha of the Yajurveda. It is a part of the Black Yajurveda, with the term black implying the unarranged motley collection of content in Yajurveda, in contrast to the white well-arranged Yajurveda where Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Isha Upanishad are embedded. Om, may Brahma protect us both together. May he nourish us both together. May we both work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and effective. May we not hate each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Students of Brahma, the Vedas, discuss among themselves what is the cause. Is it Brahma? Whence are we born? Why do we live? Where is our final rest? Under whose orders are we who know the Brahma subjected to the law of happiness and misery? Time, nature, law, chance, matter, energy, intelligence, neither these nor combination of these can bear examination because of their own birth, identity and the existence of the self. The self also is not a free agent, being under the sway of happiness and misery. Practicing the method of meditation, they realize that being who is the God of religion, the self of philosophy and the energy of science, who exists as the self-luminous power in everyone, who is the source of the intellect, emotions and will, who is one without a second, who presides over all the causes enumerated above, beginning with time and ending with the individual soul, and who had been incomprehensible because of the limitations of their own intellect. We think of him as the universe resembling a wheel which has one felly with a triple tire, 16 extremities, 50 spokes, 20 counter spokes and 6 sets of 8, which is driven along 3 different roads by means of a belt that is single yet manifold, and which each revolution gives rise to 2. We think of him in his manifestation as the universe, who is like a river that contains the waters of 5 streams, that has 5 big turnings due to 5 causes, that has the 5 pranas for the waves, the mind, the basis of 5-fold perception for the source, and the 5-fold misery for its rapid, and that has 5 whirlpools, 5 branches and innumerable aspects. In this infinite wheel of Brahma, on which everything lives and rests, the pilgrim soul is whirled about, knowing that the individual soul, hitherto regarded as separate, to be itself the moving force, and blessed by him, it attains immortality. This is expressly declared to be the Supreme Brahman, in that is the triad, it is the firm support, and it is the imperishable. Knowing the inner essence of this, the knowers of Veda become devoted to Brahman, merge themselves in it, and are released from birth. The Lord supports this universe, which consists of a combination of the perishable and the imperishable, the manifest and the unmanifest. As long as the self does not know the Lord, it gets attached to worldly pleasures and is bound, but when it knows Him, all fetters fall away from it. The conscious subject and the unconscious object, the master and the dependent, are both unborn. She too, who is engaged in bringing about the relation of the enjoyer and the enjoined, or between these two, is unborn when all these three are realized as Brahman. The self becomes infinite, universal, and free from the essence of agentship. Matter is perishable, but God is imperishable and immortal. He, the only God, rules over the perishable matter and individual souls. By meditating on Him, by uniting with Him, and by becoming one with Him, there is cessation of all illusion in the end. With the knowledge of God, all fetters fall off. With the waning of ignorance, birth and death cease. Going beyond the consciousness of the body by meditating on Him, one reaches the third state, the universal lordship. All his desires are satisfied and he becomes one without a second. This is to be known as eternally existing in one's own self. Indeed, there is nothing to be known beyond this. As a result of meditation, the enjoyer, the enjoyed, and the power which brings about the enjoyment, all are declared to be the three aspects of Brahman. Fire is not perceived in its source. The fire stick, till it is ignited by percussion, the subtle essence of fire, nevertheless, is not absent in the stick, for fire can be obtained from the source. The fire stick, by striking again the state of Atman before and after realization. By meditating on the pranava, the Atman is perceived manifestly in the body, but it was there in a latent state even before realization. Making one's own body the lower piece of wood and the pranava the upper piece of wood, and practicing churning in the form of meditation, one should realize God as one would find out something hidden. As oil in sesame seeds, as butter in curd, as water in underground springs, as fire in wood, even so this self is perceived in the self. He who by means of truthfulness, self-control and concentration looks again and again for this self, which is all-pervading like butter contained in milk, and which is rooted in self-knowledge and meditation, he becomes that supreme Brahman, the destroyer of ignorance. First harnessing the mind and the senses with a view to realizing the truth, and then having found out the light of the fire, the evolving soul brought itself out of the earth. With our minds controlled so as to manifest the self, luminous, immanent soul, we shall vigorously endure for the attainment of supreme bliss. Controlling the heaven aspiring senses with the help of the mind and the intellect, the immanent soul so regenerates them as to enable them to manifest the self-luminous infinite light. Great is the glory of the immanent soul who is all-pervading, all-knowing, ignite, and self-luminous. Only those rare few who know undergo the necessary discipline and spiritual practices. The wise do indeed control the activities of the intellect and practice meditation and concentration. Following only in the footsteps of the wise, I merge you both in the ancient Brahman by continued meditation. May the glorious one manifest himself. May the sons of immortal bliss hearken to me, even they who occupy celestial regions. Where fire is churned out, where air is controlled, where soma juice overflows, there the mind attains perfection. Attaining whom thou destroyest the source and art no more troubled by the results of past actions, To that ancient Brahman be thou devoted through the prime cause, the immanent soul. Placing the body in a straight posture, holding the chest, throat, and head erect, and drawing the senses and the mind into the heart, the knowing one should cross over all the fearful currents by means of the raft of Brahman, controlling the senses with an effort and regulating the activities in the body. One should breathe out through the nostrils when the vital activities become gentle. Then the knowing one, without being in the least distracted, should keep his hold on the mind as on the reins attached to restive horses. One should perform one's exercises in concentration, restoring to caves and such other pure places helpful to its practice, places where the ground is level without pebbles and the scenery pleasing to the eyes, where there is no wind, dust, fire, dampness, and disturbing noises. Forms that appear like snow, smoke, sun, wind, fire, firefly, lightning, crystal, and moon perceived the manifestation of Brahman in yoga practice. When the fivefold perception yoga arising from concentrating the mind on earth, water, light, air, and ether have appeared to the yogin, then he has become possessed of a body made of the fire of yoga, and he will not be touched by disease, old age, or death. It is said that the first signs of entering yoga are lightness of body, health, thirstlessness of mind, clearness of complexion, a beautiful voice and agreeable odor, and sanctiness excretions. Just as the same metal disc which was stained by dust before shines brilliantly when cleansed, sought he embodied being, seeing the truth of Atman, realizes oneness, attains the goal, and becomes sorrowless. When the yogin realizes the truth of Brahman through the perception of the truth of Atman in this body as a self-luminous entity, then knowing the divinity as unborn, eternal, and free from all the modifications of Prakriti, he is freed from all sins. This divinity pervades all directions in their entirety. He is the firstborn, Hiranyagarbha. He has entered into the womb. He alone is born and is to be born in future. He is inside all persons as the indwelling self, facing all directions. Salutations to that divinity who is in the fire, who is in the water, who is in the plants, who is in the trees, who has pervaded the whole universe. It is the self-same one who exists alone at the time of creation and dissolution of the universe, that assumes manifold powers and appears as the divine Lord by virtue of his incrustable powers of Maya. It is that protects all the worlds and controls all the various forces working therein. Those who realize this being becomes immortal. He who protects and controls the worlds by his own power, he, Rudra, is indeed one only. There is no one beside him who can make him the second. O man, he is present inside the hearts of all beings. After protecting and maintaining all the world, he finally withdraws them into himself. Though God, the creator of heaven and earth, is one only, yet heaven is the real owner of all the eyes, faces, hands, and feet in this universe. It is heaven who inspires them all to do their respective duties in accordance with the knowledge, past actions, and tendencies of the various beings with whom they appear to be associated. May heaven, who created the gods and supports them, who is the origin also of the cosmic soul, who confers bliss and wisdom on the devotees, destroying their sins and sorrows, and punishing all breaches of law, may heaven, the great seed and the Lord of all, endow us with good thoughts. O Lord, who blesses all creatures by revealing the Veda, deign to make us happy by thy calm and blissful self, which roots out terror as well as sin. O revealer of the Vedic truths, deign to make propitious that arrow which thou holdest in thy hand for shooting at somebody. O protector of devotees, do not destroy that vain personal form of thine which has manifested as the universe. Higher than this personal Brahman is the infinite supreme Brahman, who is concealed in all beings according to their bodies, and who, though remaining single, envelops the whole universe. Knowing him to be the Lord, one becomes immortal. I have realized this great being who shines effulgent like the sun beyond all darkness. One passes beyond death only on realizing him. There is no other way of escape from the circle of births and deaths. There is not higher than or different from him, not greater or more minute than him. Rooted in his own glory, he stands like a tree, one without a second and immobile. By that being, the whole universe is filled. That being is far beyond this world, is formless and free from misery. They who know this become immortal, but all others have indeed to suffer misery alone. Therefore, that divine Lord, being all pervading, omnipresent, and benevolent, dwells in the hearts of all beings and makes use of all faces, heads, and necks in this world. This self is indeed the mighty Lord. He is the imperishable internal light that controls everything. He guides the intellect of all beings so as to enable them to gain that extremely pure state of mukti. Assuming a form of the size of a thumb, by virtue of intellect, emotion, imagination, and will, the infinite being dwells in the hearts of creatures as their inner self. Those who realize this become immortal. That infinite being has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet, enveloping the whole universe on all sides. He exists beyond 10 fingers. That which is, that which was, and that which is yet to be, all this is nothing but this infinite being. Though he grows beyond his own nature into the form of the objective universe, he still remains the Lord of immortality. With hands and feet everywhere, with eyes, heads and mouths everywhere, with ears everywhere, that exists pervading everything in the universe. They realize him as shining by the functions of all the senses, yet without the senses, as the Lord of all, the ruler of all, the refugee of all, and the friend of all. It is he who resides in the body, the city of 9 gates. He is the soul that sports in the outside world. He is the master of the whole world, animate and inanimate. Without hands and feet, he goes fast and grasps. Without eyes, he sees. Without ears, he hears. He knows whatever is to be known, yet there is none who knows him. They say he is the foremost, the great infinite being. Subtler than even the subtlest and greater than the greatest, the Atman is concealed in the heart of the creatures. By the grace of Creator, one becomes free from sorrows and desires and then realizes him as the great Lord. I know this undecaying, primeval, immanent self-all, who is omnipresent because of his all-pervasiveness, and who the expounder of the Brahma declared to be eternally free from birth.